Hi, it's Kylie Koo, and this is day 26 of the ATC A Day Challenge. So I sat down at my desk today and realised that I hadn't even cleaned away from the day before. Still glitter lying about, I hadn't even changed the water that my paintbrushes were sitting in. So I just sat down and thought, right, not sure what I'm going to do, I'll just do a bit of background to start with, as is so often the case. So I'd put some water down and just took that raw umber colour and dotted it about. Added a little bit of this gold fluid acrylic and again just dabbed it around. And thanks to the person that left the comment suggesting how I actually hold the card in place without me putting my fingers on it, I will give that a go. So here I am just drying it off and just using the paintbrush to create a kind of textured effect. Now again, the back of the card's quite wet, so just giving it a dry at this stage. So a nice kind of textured looking effect. So I'm looking around me and I see I have all these scraps lying about. That was an eyelet when I had been previously just trying to use that to see how it worked. Various scraps, some from yesterday, some from a few days ago. I tend to either just push them off to the side or put them into a little box. So I decided that all I was going to start to do was to start putting some of these scraps down. I was going to use Mod Podge and then switch that out to the gel matte medium. So I'm thinking here that I'm really just going to kind of put it down. I'm not going to think about too much about where I'm placing it. But it's funny, it's actually difficult to get out that kind of habit of looking at where things might fit. For example, that small piece just seemed to naturally fit in a corner, as did that piece. So I took out a bit of this green and thought, yeah, I like the way that's sitting there. Like that bit of kind of contrast colour. Pulling a bit off there. And don't ask me why I tear that bit off, but I just decided to. And you'll see that's actually still got some tissue paper on it. So, you know, there's already layers upon layers upon layers. And I just thought, yeah, I just want to create layers today, create texture, and just use up some of these small pieces. And I do love some of the patterns on these very small pieces. Some of it's just deli paper that I'd used as backgrounds. Sometimes I just put the ATC on top of a piece of deli. All those little scraps. I really don't like throwing anything away, and this is quite a good way to use them up, but really at the end of the day it doesn't use that much up. There's still plenty left. So because I like the green, I thought I'll stick another bit down. And then just the way my mind works, because I had two pieces there, I thought I need a third piece. Then I give it a coat of the Mod Podge, the gel matte medium all over, and then I just put it down onto my craft mat to try and pick up bits of the glitter that's there. And you'll see it picks up quite a few. There's still a lot left there, but I think that will just need to get wiped off now. Eventually, at some point. So again, looking at that piece with the eyelet, I really like that piece. Okay, it's not going to be a hole right the way through to the back, but it doesn't matter, it just adds a bit of interest and it uses that particular piece up. I then just want to take the glue out of the centre piece there. So I give that a dry and neaten up the edges. And at this point I'm kind of liking it, but it just kind of looks like what it is, lots of pieces stuck down. So I take some of the gold fluid acrylic again and just use a wet brush to spread that around, and that just starts to bring it together a little bit, just giving it a kind of similar tone over it, but it still allows the pattern to show through and the different colours. And I just dab some of that off with the sponge. So after drying it, I then take my Stabilo All and I actually just start to outline some of the scraps. And I like the effect that this has created. Suddenly it seems to be coming together. So just using a wet brush, just blending out those lines ever so slightly, not too much. But it's starting to look quite interesting, I thought anyway. So I reached into my recycling box and I pulled out yet another onion bag. Now this is slightly different to the one that I'd been using more recently. Different sort of material. So I thought about, could I use this over it, and I'm just looking there at how it might stretch over. Then I discover these little pieces from the outer edges of the onion still in it. I'd obviously just dumped the bag in my box without clearing it out, and it was a colour that attracted me initially, and I thought, those are interesting. Then I remembered that just a few days before I had taken some roses that had been blown about in the garden a bit, and I had wanted to start to dry some of the petals. So I remembered I had those and I thought those might make an interesting focal point. So that's what I'm doing here, just playing about with the rose petals and the small pieces of the onion skin. And just thinking, could I make something from it? So I now take the Mod Podge and I do a coat right across the card because I know that I'm going to be sticking quite a bit down. Now the onion peel was quite difficult to work with because it's very brittle, so there's little pieces breaking off it all the time. But I start to put a few of these in place. Really having to coat them quite thickly with the Mod Podge because, as I say, they were quite brittle and quite difficult to just kind of get them down. So I have no idea how long this sort of thing will last. I would imagine, given the coat of glue, it will certainly last a good few years. Not necessarily going to last forever, but that's okay. For me, it was just about using something different, and I do like using things from nature in my work, leaves and the likes, and these dried rose petals just seemed an ideal thing to use them for. These particular rose petals I had tried to dry in the microwave. I've got some others pressed between newspaper, but it was funny, after putting them in the microwave they had absolutely no scent left in them at all, so I'm not going to do any like that again. But after doing it I couldn't bring myself to actually throw them out, so they've just been kind of sitting in the studio. So there you can see it's starting to take a bit of shape, so now it's a case of putting the rose petals in place as well. And these are also quite fragile, so I wasn't going to get upset that they started to tear a little. They retained their shape not too badly. So again, getting plenty of the Mod Podge down onto them. So now just taking a few more bits of the onion peel just to bring them out a bit, because most of that had been covered. Just trying to gently lift the edges of the petals and slip the peel under. And I just keep going over the rose petals, just trying to get all the glue that's underneath out, making sure that they're as far down onto the paper as possible. And trying to do it gently so that I don't damage them too much. So I give it a dry. I kept the heat gun quite a distance away from them so that they didn't dry out too quickly. And now just taking the Stabilo oil and just doing a little bit of going around the edges. I didn't want to make it too strong, but I do that and take the brush with some water on and just blend it out a little bit. I then want to just try and draw in the petals just ever so lightly, again just to give a bit of definition to the petals. And I see at this point that there's still a bit of glue in the middle, so I just try and take the end of my paintbrush just to push that out and then dab it with my finger. So just getting that centre pushed down as much as possible. So then just to give it a bit more of a kind of, I don't know, just to kind of highlight the petals I think a bit more, I just took this kind of squeezable bottle with glimmer glue in it and I just roughly outline the petals. It was one of those things that when I started I thought, is this the right thing to do or not? But I'm glad I did. And just going around the centre as well. So kind of giving it a more defined flower shape. Noticed that little edge was sticking up, so just took a little bit of Mod Podge and just glued it back down into place. I then took the black StazOn and went around the edges. I think that just always finishes a card off, just putting some ink around the edges. Then I take a Chit Chat sticker, use a bit more of the Mod Podge, and I put it in place. So today is creative. Very roughly go round it, and that's my card complete. So I hope you've enjoyed this one, and I hope you will join me again tomorrow. So thanks very much for watching. Bye for now.